And as far as housing goes in Santa Monica, we are always going to be desirable. We're in the city of Santa Monica, we're on the coast. And look around, guys. Is San Francisco the most affordable place to live? Is New York? No. So we're not going to create affordability by building on our beaches here, and we're not going to solve homelessness by building our way out of it.
I love your approach, right? Love your approach. And obviously it's going to cause friction in government.
After this airs, or wherever.
So here we are. We're going to get started. Thanks again. And let us begin with a little bit about your journey, how you got here. You're a small business owner still. You don't have the traditional path of getting to a position like mayor that most folks do. And it's inspiring. You have a great story. Why don't we start a little bit with that and a little bit about your why you do this take on this thankless work in the first place.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not sweating because of the lights probably, but we'll get to that in a second. My journey to being on here, well, small business owner, took over my family business. I have a background prior to that. I wanted nothing to do with my family business, which is music stores. Not because I don't love music, but because everybody in my family worked in it. Both my parents aren't from this country. My mom's from Trinidad. My dad's Cuban and Spanish, but came by way of Canada. We struggled and were poor, and I watched all my siblings kind of struggle in the music industry, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So since my mom bused me to school on the north side, I had that to look forward to, these kids that grew up in big houses, and that's what I wanted, and I figured that wasn't the way to get it, to work at the music store in a building we didn't own. However, my journey through being an account executive, international marketing, one day, kids, one in the belly and one on my hip, my dad said, we're going to go bankrupt and close. And we've been serving every school now 54 years with all their instruments and repairs. And my dad won a Man of the Year award in Compton and Watts for bringing music to underserved kids. And I thought, what a tragedy to lose that. So I said, fine. We sold everything, moved into an apartment, downsized to one car. And I stepped in, I said it was temporary and I would maybe, have some more time with my kids. Cut to me taking over. Well, during that process as a business owner in a community where we had to deal with the city a lot, I saw a lot of things happen over time. And what in 2020 when COVID hit, right after that we got looted and our other location got set on fire during the George Floyd riots. And I was there during that time with my kids and with the kids in my nonprofit. And afterwards in the rebuilding phase, I thought, the way it was handled and everything that was going on, I wanted to get more involved. So I started a program through the police department and the at-risk youth that I offer free lessons to. And during that process, the folks in the police department and fire department were like, you need to be on our city council. I'm like, absolutely not. First of all, I cuss like a sailor. I'm tatted up, and they're like, but everybody knows you. You've been so philanthropic in the community. Your dad has your staple here. You're born and raised. And as a business owner, the struggles. Because at that time, we had people all of a sudden, for the first time in decades, like doing meth in front of my music store. But the city was fining me for having like an A-frame saying, kids rock band. They're like, you can't have that there. That's $200. I'm like, oh, by the way, that guy just shit in front of my store and is like smoking meth. What about him? And they're like, yeah, we can't deal with that right now. So that's what inspired me. But in all honesty, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, someone's got to say something about that. And they're like, well, it's political. I'm like, it is? So that some guy stepped down in the middle of a Zoom council meeting. And so the first thing I did was I joined the Public Safety Oversight Commission, not because I wanted to. I was like, what is that? And so they're like, you should join it. We need common sense people like you who, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Then this guy in the middle of a meeting, like mic dropped on a Zoom meeting. He's like, I'm off this shit. And like got off council. So they're like, there's your opportunity. You don't have to do a campaign. You can step in. And I was like, all right. So me and 37 other people put our name in. I did the hustle of meeting with the council members and having breakfast with them and saying, like, please pick me. It got narrowed down to 2 people. It was my birthday, 2021, June 29th, and I fucking got on. And I was like, and then I immediately had a panic attack, like, oh my God, what did I do? Because they Googled me and put up old podcasts I was on, and they were like, oh, is she qualified? I was like, I'm not. I was like, I'm really not qualified. You should unseat me. So then, and then a year and 4 months later, my imposter syndrome started to melt away. I still have it oftentimes because I was sitting amongst a lawyer for AT&T, a person who, everybody there was lawyers, public policy heads, and this was a stepping stone to get somewhere else. And I was just like, there's a guy smoking meth and pooping in front of my store, and it's awful. And we should be able to like fix some of these issues, and it's not business friendly, and we need to do something different. We need to think outside the box. So then I ran for election, and I got a 4-year seat, and we do an appointment process for mayor, and so it was all political. They tried to make me mayor right away, but there was an older gentleman who really wanted it. It was like his life's goal as a child. I think he already had the license plate made. So I voted against myself 3 rounds. He really does have that license plate, by the way. Not me. I'm like, I got to be able to cut people off and get away with it. So he against myself 3 rounds, and he got it. So I was vice mayor for 2 years, and then in December, against some people's wishes, I became the mayor. And so here I am. And I must say, during that process, my dad had a stroke, was paralyzed. I took care of him. February of last year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Didn't tell my dad. Didn't miss a meeting. Went through 3 surgeries, 5 months of chemo, radiation, rang the bell in November, got sworn in, well, not sworn in, but got appointed as mayor in December. Everything caught on fire in January. And then Evan was like, do you know about GovTools? It could really help your eyebrows grow back.
That's how it happened.
Exactly.
I don't know if there's any question to the mayor's authenticity, but in my opinion, working with her and being friends with her now for years has been, it's second to none in my opinion. It's one of the most refreshing things about Mayor Negrete is that she is that authentic, and you don't see that as much, and she's a human. And
I still think it's funny when you say mayor. Or people are like, Madam Mayor. I'm like,
yeah. So your mindset around all of this is always, for me, very refreshing, and refreshing for so many of the people who voted for you, obviously. Do you think that the entrepreneurial mindset, the startup mindset, that way of solving problems, critical thinking, how much more of that do we need in government? And just to be fair, where is its limitations?
well, I think that's what separates me. There's been people on council who have been like, I'm a business owner, but they've never had to run payroll or put a key in a door and flip the open sign or, really deal with the city in the capacity that I have. And I don't come from generational wealth or legacy where I'm connected. I came from parents who struggled and really didn't know how to make it, and I had to figure it out. And I think that gritty mindset forces you to think outside the box. And I think coming from trauma and struggle forces you to be flexible in your mindset, and it gives you just a different perception. I'm not knocking anyone who comes from that, because I think a balanced dais in local government should involve all of those things, right? Some polished thinking, and then people who have common sense and lived perspective, because that's what makes the team effort like sound. Because oftentimes I'm at a table where I'm like, people will be putting forward policy, and I'm like, that actually doesn't work, because like I am in that space, and they're like, oh, okay. Or vice versa. They'll say, that's a great idea, but let me tell you why that doesn't work, because I've been in this in a different profession. And we're actually hiring a city manager right now, so it's funny you say that. We get a booklet and we see all the people apply, and I'm looking at every past CEO and people who have started their own business and right-sized an organization, because I look at city government like our constituents are our customers, and we are a business, and we need to be serving our community. And as an elected leader, I'm the go-between between the constituent and staff, right? That's how I see it, at least. And so my job is to be like, since you guys are busy working, let me tell you what our customers are saying, and then let's adjust so that we can serve our customers. But ironically, people who come from a government mindset, they were picking all the people that were like, well, he didn't run a city that was large enough, and that city doesn't have transportation like we do. And I'm like, who gives a shit? This guy like freaking saved 4 companies and has managed more staff than we've ever had. So I think it's important, because if we keep thinking that way, it's like the old saying, you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's insanity. And I think for most of us, with the ebbs and flows, the problems that we have in government, local government, have existed forever. And it's because we don't have, we have people who are in it for different reasons, whether it's control or power, or they have a one-track mind. But I think we've lost this idea of like serving the customer. And so for me, I think an entrepreneurial mindset gives you the opportunity to think outside the box, be flexible, identify problems, and not identify them how they connect to you, but identify them as a problem and want to fix them. And that takes people in the tech space, that takes people in the startup space, that takes people who have managed a payroll, who have failed. That's another thing. Like, we were looking at an individual who had a failed business in the past, and that was a red mark to some folks in the room. And I thought, that's not a red mark. And I'm not even talking about the city manager thing now. I'm talking about something else. Like, I've been in these groups to help hire people, and I think it's interesting how people see failure as, failure, and not as, well, at least they tried. They probably failed because they did something that nobody thought that you could do, and then they figured out, okay, that didn't work. And then I look at their successes after that. So you can only look at things that way if you've done it yourself, if you've had to sit there and come up with hatch a plan that nobody's hatched before, if you had to start a business because you were solving a need or a problem. To me, that's so important, and we need more of that in government. And I hope we're kind of going in that direction.
How do you feel that we can do more of that in government? What's required to make that happen? Whether it's getting more innovation, cultural shifts in the thinking, being able to introduce products and have more pilots, take more risks, whatever that. What do you think is required to see that shift transpires?
I think we have to, well, first of all, I think people have to get involved, and they have to feel like they can. Like, when they told me, like, you should be on city council, I was like, in all honesty, I'm like, I hadn't watched a city council meeting. I mean, who does that when there's so much crap on Netflix? I'm like, so I had to like start watching it, and it's like 20 minutes in, I'm like falling asleep. I'm like, this is so boring. And then there's all these things that, like, not that I don't care about them, but I'm like, I don't want to, like, I say this now, but like in 3 weeks, I'm going on an aqueduct tour, like flying to Vegas and driving along behind the scene to see the water. Never thought I'd do that, but I'm so nerding out on like water and all these things that I never was that much interested before in. So I think the way we present it looks daunting, and like, you can't do it and you have to know all these things. And I'm like, clearly after this, you'll all be like running for something, because you're like, well, she can do it. But you seriously, like, it's not that. I feel people need to get involved, and we need to like inform people and educate people. And I think social media can be bad for that and good for that. That the average person, you don't have to have this poli-sci background. You don't have to have an aspiration to be the next congressman or woman or senator. You just have to see a problem in your area that you're close to, that you think you could be, pivotal in fixing. And I think if I can do anything in my position with what little baby platform I have, because people think I have more power than I do, then I will say to people, that's my goal, is to get people involved. I knock on 10 doors a week. I meet with businesses every month. I do a town hall every month called Mocha with the Mayor. I want people to know that, like, hey, this is your community. Some people are like, look, I'm too busy. Like, I don't have time for that. But there's something for everyone. They'll say to me, how can I support you on the next item? Or here's my business and what I do. And I'm all about public-private partnerships. And I think in the government space, we should be moving more towards that. Because there's experts in an area that know how to do it, that have that customer mentality. And the government would be their customer. So we'd probably see a different outcome. And so I hope I can communicate to folks that whether you join a commission or a board, or whether you run for your local city council, you should get involved. You shouldn't count yourself out, because I look back now, in a million years, if you would have asked me this before 2021, I would have been like, hell no, I'm never going to be the mayor, or on city council or whatever. I was doing lobbying before that for music education. I'd been to SAC in DC, so it wasn't like beyond me, but it was for fighting for music artists' rights and things like that, and having music education in school. Would I ever think I'd be fighting for like clean water and like, speed bumps somewhere? Like, no, I didn't. But IZOs, I didn't know what IZOs and CUPs were until it impacted me in my business, and I only knew it from that end. But now I know that.
Can you say what those mean?
Yeah. CUPs are conditional use permits. So like when you have a business and you're like, oh, I want to do something else. Like, I remember I learned about it when we were having music in a space and we wanted studios. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to deal with this like zoning ordinance and this conditional use permit. And I just thought that those rules were set in stone and some person behind a locked door, like they decide what that is. Now I'm on council and we just put forward, an entertainment zone and changed conditional use permits and zoning ordinance to create a fun block. And I'm like, oh, so you really can, kids, boys and girls, you can make a difference. You can be anything you want to be. No, but if you get involved, like you can come and bring those ideas forward. Like I came in saying, I want to bring more music and entertainment and I want to bring economic recovery. How can I do that? Okay, the promenade's dying. We need to make it easier for businesses to have outdoor events and attract people. And my business mindset was like, they're like, well, let's do a temporary zoning ordinance. I'm like, well, if it's temporary, businesses can't calendar 12 months out. And then customers don't have continuity. They're not going to know that every week if I go to the promenade, there's going to be something happening. I know salsa's on Thursdays, Fridays they have, whatever football games, and Saturdays they have this. So I'm like, we have to do it permanent to give businesses that opportunity and let consumers know that they can, without, if you're driving in the car and you have a last minute plan, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, these things are happening here. But no one else was maybe thinking of it like that. We actually have a council now that is younger and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Bolder, they get it. And so that's great. I mean, that was something that wasn't happening before. And I'm getting a lot of naysayers and I've gotten thick skin because at the beginning you're kind of like, oh no, like, the 10 neighbors that I grew up with are going to hate me now because they think everyone's going to become alcoholics on the promenade. But I just, I've learned that like, you're not going to make everybody happy. But again, the entrepreneur in me says, we'll never know if we don't try it. It's not permanent. We can always go back if there's a bunch of 8-year-olds drinking $23 cocktails on the promenade because of the zoning ordinance, which apparently is going to happen. And so then we can take it back and put them into rehab and it'll be fine.
I had a whole visual of 8-year-olds
stumbling along,
hanging around, causing chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
They're getting picked up by the cops. What are some of the other improvements? I know you've made a handful of improvements and have a few in mind around getting businesses to be able to operate faster, quicker, regulatory limitations and all that. So, yeah.
Well, self-certification. I worked on that with another council member, Jesse Zwick. Sorry, I'm burping because the coffee is so gross, but I'm just calling myself out here on the mic. So we realized, like, I'm not for fast development without going through a process. However, expanding the footprint. As a business, as we take over vacants, there's TIs and there's things you have to do to make that space work for you. And as we all know, retail's changed, right? So on the promenade, for example, there's like a 30,000 square foot building that used to be a Gap. No one's shopping like that anymore. So we had to be creative and let people adjust that space. Maybe it's now 3 spaces. Maybe we activate the alleyway. But one of the biggest problems was it takes so long to get a permit, and any young business coming in with a little bit of money doesn't have the ability to pay for rent for 9 months while government gets around to giving a permit. So self-certification was a big deal. It took us months and a lot of fighting with staff that it was going to be okay. If you self-certify and can indemnify and use licensed contractors, you still have to go through the final inspection, and you would have to pay for that if you missed anything. But I'm also working with Steadfast and their e-check system, which uses AI to load all the code, which is really easy because then architects and developers can run it through and make sure they're hitting all the Santa Monica code, and they'd feel more comfortable with it. But the goal is 5 days you get a permit. For businesses doing TI improvements, anything inside, not expanding the footprint. It's also for folks like, you just want to redo your bathroom. It shouldn't take you 2 years. So this process, we hope, attracts businesses, new businesses coming in to utilize space, but also for existing businesses who want to conform and change. The idea of getting your permit in 5 days is a matter of hundreds of thousands of dollars, either from investors or in rent or whatever. So that's just one way. We've also activated alleyways. We've loosened a lot of signage restriction in downtown Santa Monica. Also, something that was helpful for businesses was I expanded the sit and lie ordinance, meaning where you can sit and lie down in front of a business. There used to be a rule where you had to have this sign posted. You had to reprint it every 30 days. Who in their right mind, when you're running a business, dropping off kids, opening up the store, you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't print out the sign that says this guy can't lie naked in front of my business. Like, darn it, I can't tell him to move, So things like that were sort of common sense, boots on the ground issues that I know my friends who are entrepreneurs dealt with are things that were sort of pushing forward. But that's around business specific stuff. Of course, there's other things too.
Awesome. As China's tariff policy impacted?
Yes,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
it has impacted my music store, but that's not.
How is the tariff policy in Santa Monica affecting Santa Monica? So, what would you want to tell entrepreneurs now that have either civic tech programs or gov tech programs, or want to get involved and don't know how, or want to start selling their products to municipalities or at least in the government space and don't know how? What advice would you give to them?
Meet your local leaders because they're looking for ideas. Public-private partnerships don't start in government. They start out here. Okay, so I've already met people here that have talked about products they have that I think are great. I was on a panel like this with a woman from Steadfast who works with Rick Caruso, of who I know because I ran alongside Tracy Park and Rick Caruso. And eCheck is this AI tool I was telling you about. She brought that forward to me on a panel like this. I set up a meeting 2 days later. She's having her second meeting with staff, and we want to be, I hope we're the first to roll it out to show that government can actually take a dive into some of these cool AI tools and expedite services and be more efficient and save taxpayers money. So I think you have to talk to your local elected leaders. You got to watch and see what's going on, because I will tell you this, since we're in a safe space, people come up to me sometimes with the most ridiculous ideas, and I'm just like, do you turn on the TV at all? Like, what are you saying? Like, I've got people like, I've got this paraglide business. I'm like, no one gives a shit right now. That everything just burned, and like, save that for some, see you in 2 years. But pay attention to like what's going on and come with like the knowledge of like, hey, I've been noticing that this is a real problem in this area, and I've got a tool to fix that, or I've got a way to fix that. It makes them feel a little bit less like, okay, yeah, sure, talk to my staffer, because now they know that you're paying attention, you know what you're talking about, you've seen the problem, you've done your homework. Because it's really annoying. We have like 1,000 emails a day to have to like sit. I've sat through many meetings I just went through one that I can never get those 20 minutes back in my life. I didn't know what the meeting was about, and I messed up, and he was like going on for 18 minutes of why we need a game. He was impressing upon me and staff why we need this game, a facility to play games, video games. I'm like, I don't need you. We don't care what business you have, but what did you need from me? I thought he needed some special permitting, and he didn't. He just wanted to sell us about his video game thing, and it was annoying, and we'll probably never meet with him again. So my point is, like, you have to know what you're going in and study your people. So see who is the most approachable. Don't just email them, call them, try to get a meeting. Know that their time is limited and start with that. I know your time is limited. Thank you. I know this is like a thankless job and you probably get paid nothing to do it. I mean, at least if you're talking to people in Santa Monica. But I would like to take 15 minutes of your time. This is the issue that I see. This is what I'm trying to solve. And this is my company. Those 3 things, just hit it quick, because you go on to all this other stuff and you lose people, and they have so many people they're meeting with, you'll lose them. But if you think you really want to get in front of someone, you want to have a public-private partnership, don't hold back. The opportunity is now. Strike while the iron is hot. Every municipality is downsizing. We have budget issues. So if there's a more efficient, cost-saving way to help cities and communities thrive, this is your opportunity. You just have to have that elevator pitch down, 3 bullet points, watch a handful of city council meetings, get to know your council members, and hit them with that in the first 60 seconds, and you'll get a meeting. And I think you have to just stay persistent as well, because they're inundated with a lot of things, and staff, historically they're not usually full of people who are like, absolutely, we should try that. They're like, they're punching in and punching out, and they get retirement benefits that none of us in the private sector know anything about. So you have to really get that council member, and you've got to get them excited about what you're doing, and you got to help them sell your product by hitting them with, I've done my homework. I know the problem, and I can help you solve it.
Last lightning round question. before we jump to audience questions. You speak really well on how to navigate political barriers and respecting people for their beliefs, whether you disagree or don't or agree, and being able to be an ear for everyone. And you've spoken very well on that in the past. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about that, and because some of these things, they become political out of nowhere. You're like, what? So especially for entrepreneurs who maybe frame it a little bit around that, but I just say a couple words on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to reach across the aisle. Coming from a sales marketing background, and a customer service background, not to say the customer is always right, but I always go in with things my mom taught me. Like, we're all human beings. We've all had some struggle. I don't know what all of you went through this morning, let alone this past year. We're all coming and showing up for the day and for each moment in life with whatever traumas, trials, and tribulations we've all gone through. So I try to lead from that space because, don't get me wrong, I've been turned off or brushed off and belittled in meetings, and then my own ego steps in, and I'm like, oh God. And it can get like that really quick in the political scene because people come to it with that mindset, and I don't come to it with that mindset. And then I get like, it takes me a second to like adjust myself and remember that like, oh, these are all just like somebody's babies, and then they just like became adults, and we're here in this room, you know? So I try to like get myself in a place of like just being open to conversation. And I have been politicized for things from, I was on the news and quick to say, I just thought about something I said in this meeting that I'm in the back of my mind, I'm stressing out about, which was how I said we looked at hiring the city managers. And I'm like, oh my God, is this video going to go out? And is everyone going to think that I said something about that? Like, these are the things I have to worry about. But, you know, because I speak fast and off the cuff like this, it comes with like bruises and scratches. But what I do is I just know that when someone comes to something, I know that, okay, they are coming to this with a perspective based on their lived experience, and so am I. And that's okay. They're not a mean, bad person. I'm the first to go toe-to-toe with someone who doesn't believe in what I'm bringing forward, whose ideologies are opposite of mine, because who wants to be in an echo chamber? When I have, drinks with my friends, that's the moment to be like, get the pats on the backs and have everybody like pump you up. But I like to engage in debate, and I actually look at it as an opportunity to learn. So when I got on council, I have a different view on how housing and homelessness are correlate. And a lot of people on the council, in my belief, have a different belief about density and housing solving homelessness. And so I love one of our former mayors, Gleam Davis. I respect. I think she's so smart, but we are totally on opposite ends when it comes to density. So she gave me a book about it, and I took notes, and I would ask her questions, and we had a standing monthly lunch, and everyone's like, why do you go to lunch with her? You guys are so opposite ideologically. I'm like, that's why. Because I think she's respectful, kind, she's very smart, and I learn from her. And when I'm going to go toe-to-toe with someone on the dais, I need to know a little bit about where she swings. Is she right or left? Or like, is she coming from down here, up here? I did boxing for 6 years. So I'm like, okay, so I need to know where she's coming. Otherwise, I'm going to be blindsided and knocked out in round one every time. So I look at these engagements as like a friendly boxing match, and when you're out, you got to shake hands, you got to congratulate the opponent, and you got to say, cool, like, I'm going to go back in the gym and train for this next fight. I'm going to go watch the tape, and I'm going to be ready the next time. And it's because we both are coming to it with passion for something. We both want that heavyweight belt, and you got to respect the other person. You can't hate the other person that you're in the ring with, because you're both coming there for the same reason.
I love that. Beautifully said. It's a warming feeling in the political climate we're in right now, to know that there's people doing that and lead with that. So thank you. We're going to do some Q&A here, but before I do that, I just want to do a quick shout out, but also after, when everyone's networking, there's someone else here who knows a ton about the city and about civics. His name is Alvin Gillich. He's right there in the back. Quick shout out to Alvin Gillich. A very close friend.
My backup husband when he's not around.
The mayor's backup husband when he's not around. I wasn't going to say that.
I can see the headlines now. Polygamy.
Alvin has been on many boards and commissions, and he is very knowledgeable on all things civics, but also for small businesses. He's worked with the economic development with LA, or the small business development center. Yes. Yep. And so pick his brain too. Okay. Quick rules on questions. Just please don't do the thing where you try to get 4 questions in one, or you have some anecdote that everyone's just like, come on. There's a lot of people want to ask questions, I'm assuming. Just don't do that. Don't be that person. If your question, give yourself like a 20 to 30 second timer on your question. If it goes longer than that, I'm going to get on the mic and be like, you're doing the thing I just said don't do. That's 8 questions. You tried to get it into one. It's not cool.
Dude, I'm going to steal that for counsel. I'm just going to say, don't do the thing.
Don't do the thing. You know the thing, too, and no one's going to like it. All right? You're on warning. All right, here we go. Q&A time. Anyone have a question? All right, first hand up.
Do I need to stand up?
It's nice for people to see, I think.
So I have a question for Mayor. That what is your biggest challenges now, and is there any support from the government currently helping small business, like specific for workforce development or manufacturing side, funding like that?
So on a local level, like workforce development in that capacity, that what you're talking about, where the federal government is involved, I don't deal with that challenge myself. I mean, look, I own a music store, and most of our products come from China, and so we're impacted by all the things that are happening at the federal level, for sure. But my biggest challenge, actually, as an elected leader, like when you ask me that, I always go, what just came first to mind? It's misinformation and people not being misinformed or not understanding. So right now, there's a lot of noise that's distracting from solving things because people like headlines, and there's like those like negative little social groups across Reddit and Nextdoor and whatever, Instagram, Facebook. That's my biggest challenge, because I spend a lot of time like deconstructing misinformation for people, and I'm like, God, those 17 minutes could have been spent solving a problem. That's actually my biggest problem, and that goes all the way up to state and federal, because even my leaders in meetings, they'll be like, oh, I heard you guys are doing blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you on Reddit? Like, you're like an assembly member. That's so bizarre. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. Or, hey, I heard this is happening. That's actually my biggest problem. It's the party politics. It's the fact that on a local level, we're supposed to be nonpartisan. And so we don't get a lot of things done. Genuinely, the reason why it takes so long is because everyone's afraid of stepping on a landmine. So instead of taking the direct path to get to where you want to go, like us as business people would be like, it's right over there. You're just going to cross the street. And they're like, I'm going to go around because Sue doesn't like it when I walk. And I got to skip when I go this way because Jan doesn't like walking. And then I got to sit because I got to talk to Tammy for 5 minutes. Otherwise, I won't be able to cross. And then that's why it takes like 10 years. And then now the street's not there. And you're like, oh, shit. So I know that didn't really answer your question, but and when it comes to the federal level of like manufacturing, that's not a challenge for me, if I'm being honest. The stuff I'd have to think on that, and I guess I could come up with some fancy answer for you. But honestly, like, no, I deal with that in my business, sure, but I'm not having those types of conversations right now with the federal government. We're talking about funding and things like that, and politics and party lines get in the way 1,000% of the time, if I'm being honest.
By the way, it's a great opportunity to think about when we're taking the opportunity to learn about civics, the levels of government, how they work, and who handles what, and why they handle those things, and what the nature of those things are. There are things that are specifically designed for the federal government to handle, the state government, the county, how they work with the city, for example. Are important before you read a headline and point a finger and say, the mayor of Santa Monica, and you're like, actually, first of all, it's at the county level. Second of all, they're not even one who makes the policy. Third of all, like there's all these layers to try to understand, and that's really what I'd like to impart, I guess, is when you read a headline, do the work in trying to understand and go deeper, like levels deeper, like you would in solving a business problem.
And I always tell people, ask me a question before you tell me your thought or opinion, because you don't even know. We just met. Like, you know what I mean? This guy just sent out an email blast, for example. I was in SAC. I worked on a bill, AB 478, that had to do with saving animals during the fires. I went on my own dime, totally separate from Santa Monica. And he just sent out a whole thing, the first blonde Latina with no E on the end of blonde. I'm like, oh God, who's blonde, me or you? I'm not gonna tell my hairstylist that these highlights are really fooling people. But anyways, he said that I was there to lobby against a bill. So he's manipulating what happened, but he said I was there to lobby against a bill that's going to hurt Latinos, and every Latino should write a thing because I'm Latina. And it was just so now I'm getting people who I know for 30 years are like, did you go for 8? I'm like, I can't even be friends with you anymore. This is so stupid. Like, I'm just like, but I have to take a breath, and I'm like, I'm so New Yorker about stuff. I swear I was born in New York somehow, or made in New York. I don't know. But I'm just like, I don't have time for this shit. Like, Jesus Christ, order your bagel and move on. Like, but I'm like, this is like so stupid. Like, so I'm talking to my friend and I'm like, we're literally having this conversation. Like, you're asking me this stupid, and we're friends. Well, I don't know. I got the email. I said, oh, you got the email? Oh, you got the email? Well, now I know what to send a fucking email when I want people to read shit. I'm just going to send you a fake email, and then... God, it was so, and then that gets me all frazzled bedazzled. See, I said I haven't really gotten there yet. I got to get to the point where I don't want to get so thick-skinned though, like some of these people where they just really don't care. Like, I still care when people say mean things. I'm like, oh, whatever, I have thick skin. Then I go home and I'm with my husband or Evan. I'm like, do you think they really think that? And then I go out in the public and they're like, you're so good. I'm like, I just cried in my car for 10 minutes about what that crazy guy said that's on Reddit that has 10 followers on Facebook.
All right. I see a hand. Next question. They're right there.
Hey, so I could sit here and listen to you all day long. I'm having so much fun.
My husband says the same thing.
Yeah, it's so fun. My question is it's in two parts. So I
20-second limit.
Don't do the thing.
I love your approach, right? Love your approach, and obviously it's going to cause friction in government.
After this airs, sure, wherever.
Mm-hmm. So, what are surprisingly, in your perspective, what are the aspects of your work and what you've been doing with the city that your approach has really been effective? And then the other part is, what are the things you're like, fuck, this isn't going to work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, actually. That's happened from day one. Where it's been effective is the people who, I think there's small groups that during elections and campaigns, people get elected and everyone's like, what? And so some of us that are like kind of not, I don't know what you want to call us. Like, we're in the middle, common sense, like our heads down, we're going to work, but we pay enough attention to know what's going on. And then you're like thoroughly surprised, like, is everybody stupid? Like, what's going on? I think in a lot of ways what's been effective about my approach is I've brought in the folks that have felt unheard but are like working and busy, and they're like, I don't really know how to be involved, but I don't like what's going on, and I need to meet with you in an unorganic fashion. I don't want to join this organization or this group to get your attention. And I think that's where I've been effective, is rising like the business community's voice and connecting and being a person that's not like crazy, that's like, okay, well, she's had a business, she's now elected. So now I'm in front of people where I can bring that voice that's had a really hard time being heard, because the organized factions are always first to the table because they've been doing this forever. And it's not that what they're saying is right or wrong. I don't even think they represent the majority of people in the community. They've just been running that marketing game for so long. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's where I've been effective, is bringing those other folks along. Where that has not worked is when an item just becomes so heavily politicized. I just worked on a bill. So this is all new to me, like working on a bill. And I tell the kids in my nonprofit, they come along with me. They're like, Miss Lana, what about this? I'm like, it got so watered down, kids. I don't even know. We started out with doing this, and now, like, I wanted to do chocolate milk, and now I'm like in watered down orange juice. I don't even know how we got there and how those two connect, but these legislators have convinced me that we'll get to chocolate milk if we just start with watery, sugar-free orange juice. So I use those analogies all the time because it's easy to kind of visualize. That's where it's not effective. Like, I'll come in, I'll be like, this is stupid. Let's not do it that way. And then they're just like, you can't say that. You just pissed 10 people off, and now we won't be talking to you for the rest of the year. And I'm like, oh, I was just kidding. So that's where it's not effective. Like, that's where I've had to learn how to play their game too. So I do my thing that comes naturally, but I have also had to learn how to play the political game. and gone and tried to do something one way, that just like common sense, just walk across the streetway. And I'm like, oh, I got to do the whole like take a freeway and all this to get over here. And I've realized that I have to do that. And I think it's a lesson for me. Like, I have to travel those roads. Like, I have respect for the game. Like, these people that are in the political game, they know it. I mean, even you know all these people. They know all the folks in the offices and who to get to and where. And they're like, Lana, you're over here like wanting to just jump right over in like the, on the toll thing and the carpool lane, and you ain't got nobody in your car with you. You can't do that. You have to like put these people in the car, and you got to like, you can only drive when it says 3 people in the car or more. And like, this is just the route you have to take. Otherwise it won't get done. And that's where I've had to learn patience and been like, okay, so I guess I have to do it this way to get it done. It's going to take longer. And that's the hard part as an elected with a short amount of time, because then you got to go tell your constituents. The Assembly, Congress, Senate, they're so far removed from their constituents. We're over here, boots on the ground in this small room. Like, someone will be like, in 22, I asked you about solving homelessness. And what have you done? I'm like, fuck, nothing. But then I feel bad because I'm like, well, then you got to do the whole, like, there's different layers of government. And basically, it takes a really long time to get things done. And that's where folks like myself get frustrated and termed out, and you see us and you don't hear about them again, because we're business, entrepreneur, mindset, common sense problem solvers. And it's like, this is so dumb. But you have to have this tricky balance of like, okay, it might be dumb, but this is the way they've been doing it forever. And I've got to like, it's like going to another country and like changing culture. I just came back from Japan, which is like a whole other conversation because it's so amazing and beautiful there and clean. And it's about culture. Everybody there does, when they step out of their private space, they do for what works for the collective good of all first, then themselves. We operate government, personally, culturally, in a space of what works for me. I mean, we all have friends that are like, that's right now I'm in my space, you're in my space, like, or that doesn't work for me, like that's our thing. And I think that's how we do it in government. It's like there's a culture in government, and I can't come in there and be like changing culture, but it is shifting. And I think if more people like ourselves get involved, problem solvers, entrepreneurs, startup folks, come in, the culture will shift and the culture might change. And then you can just walk across the street instead of having to take 10 freeways to get there. So.
Yeah, actually, I'll do a quick plug for my podcast, Meyer's Side Chats. I recently interviewed the mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, who actually says the exact same thing. And he was actually a civic tech entrepreneur, a company called Brigade before that. But he said the exact same thing. The way to solve a lot of these problems is to get involved. It can actually fix the big problems that we're having, but not enough people do it. I hope I'm not butchering his exact comment, but it was something exactly along the lines of what you're saying. All right. I see a hand over here.
Great conversation. Thank you. Since you mentioned Mayor of San Jose, I just came back from San Jose, and San Jose is the first city to announce the end of unsheltered homelessness.
Wow.
They're using the new bill that just passed last fall. They're going to provide housing, interim housing. It's not going to cost $800,000 per unit that was spent in LA. It'll be like $40,000 per unit. We're a local company that makes those units.
Modular.
Yeah. Can we get started on that?
Yeah, I would like to. So working with Steadfast, and as you know, during the fires, the mobile home parks were destroyed. And the interesting, complex thing about mobile home parks is the right of entry, the ROEs, the folks that lived, rented, or even owned their own mobile home, they can't fill those out without the person who owns the land signing them. And some of the people who own the land some of these folks may just want to get rid of the land. And so now all these people lose their homes. And so we were working with, because they were kind of the last to be looked at, with modular companies. And I have a friend who's in that space that dealt with the Lanai fires. And so I always think about that. Like, why can't we just there's so many open lots, even old, business, big offices. Like, we just put 4 schools in the Colorado Park. That's how many how much empty office space there was. And so I think about that all the time. Why doesn't that happen? There's a lot of reasons. We would have to use public land to do that, number one. We are in a huge deficit. We have a $700 million budget. We just paid out over the course of a few years, $229 million in a lawsuit. We have 157 more cases on that lawsuit. We have a $55 million debt we've been paying into another litigation we're going through. We have COLAs coming up and labor, stuff coming up that we can't. We have CIP projects, meaning like potholes and basic lights that we have to replace that we can't do. We've been putting on the back burner. So any land that we have right now is called a suitable site. The city's looking at it to recuperate some funds and to make money. None of those projects, the funding. I'll tell you this homeless whole thing. At the regional, state, and federal level is where the money is. It's not at the municipal level. But my point is that we would have to provide the land, or someone who owns land would have to strike a deal, and it would have to be financially sound for them, or they'd have to just be some angel from heaven that's like, I would like to give my land. The city would never be against that. That's the problem. But to be honest with you, and I'm someone who feels that way, if we're being real, because I spend my time in multiple cities, and I grew up, my husband grew up in the projects, for people who are like, oh my God, it's insane. I'm like, oh my God, take a 7-minute ride with me. I go to Soho downtown and you're stepping over tents, and then you go up to Soho House. You're like, whoo, God, that was rough. We don't have encampments because we've had strong encampment laws for a very long time. But the reason you're seeing what we're seeing is we're a service provider beyond anybody else. Venice and Santa Monica has the most services where you can go get a laptop, shower. We have a whole space where you line up. You'll see them by the freeway at San Michelle. They get a shower, a locker. They get the resources to get their phone, all that, right? So that draws people here. We also have the weather. We have a lot of public spaces that you can't police. You can't say I walked with a business owner the other day, and they're like, look at that guy right there. Look at him. His butt cracks out. He looks homeless. He's dirty. He's talking to himself. He's got these bags around him. And I go, I totally get you, but close your eyes and imagine he's wearing Ferragamo. Those are Gucci bags, and he's eating an Erewhon salad. Now what? Do you know what I mean? The police don't have the laws to discern between a dirty butt crack and your shitty trash bags and not. And so that's the problem. I think people forget that that's unsightly, but there's no law that says that they can discern. Because I could come out, I might have a bender one night with Evan and be shit-faced and fall asleep in the park. Am I going to get arrested? I think so where the issue is there's mental health and there's drug abuse, and that is what we see in the streets. 87% of the folks out there are not from California. They're service resistant, okay? And they have problems that are beyond needing a friggin' apartment building. I'm sorry. We're not gonna build our way out of homelessness. This transitional housing issue is about getting people in. It's in my family. My brother and my uncle lives on the streets. My brother now is in sober living. You need to get people the help they need, because they will not be able to maintain. You think some guy that's talking to themselves and shooting up is going to be able to all of a sudden be walking and getting his groceries and taking care of an apartment? No, these people need mental health help. And that money comes from the states, the feds, and the federal government. Those places come from there. So we can provide transitional housing all day long, but until we do what a business does, if we were to open a hamburger shop, first thing we'd say, how many people can we serve today? I have 800 patties. When 815 people come at 50, you're like, sorry, we're all out. We've never said as a city, how many homeless people can we serve effectively? We've never said that. We just keep doing a count, and we keep overflowing, and we keep saying we have a problem. And as far as housing goes in Santa Monica, we are always going to be desirable. We're in the city of Santa Monica. We're on the coast. And look around, guys. Is San Francisco the most affordable place to live? Is New York? No. So we're not going to create affordability by building on our beaches here, and we're not going to solve homelessness by building our way out of it. We're going to create opportunity and affordability by doing a lot of the other things we talked about earlier, but we're going to solve that problem by addressing opioid addiction, drug abuse, and mental health. And that requires state and federally funded facilities. So
I think we have time for one more. One more. Oh, okay. Who? Oh, yeah. Yep. There we go.
You have a room full of entrepreneurs. Are there problems that new business owners or entrepreneurs might solve, or ideas that you have for us from your perspective?
I like that. Yeah. We have lots of vacant space. We have small space. We have flexible space. Like I talked about those conditional use permits, the entertainment zone, the signage. We've created more flexible space in our downtown area. And I want to let everybody know here, when this problem came up on the promenade of all the vacant space, I was like, well, it's too expensive. We don't own those buildings, right? Those are 24 property owners. And they are not offering often flexible leases because they might have that building in a portfolio of many others. And they're like, live somewhere else a lot of times. And they're waiting for the heyday of $26 a square foot to come back. And it's better for them to write it off, right, as a business owner and show that as a loss than to actually be flexible and go out there and get businesses. So I would say touch base with the city. We have a new person in economic development who's phenomenal. I love her. Her name's Armene. She's coming in strong, hard with let's get businesses back here. Let's have that customer attitude. I want to bring back what they used to call an ombudsperson. I want to call it a concierge because even that word just says we're serving you. We want to help find and broker deals between landlords and businesses to find space. I remember I was like, well, I could never be on the promenade. And they were like, I would offer you $5 a square foot. There's people getting $3 a square foot. However, when I stepped into it, the guy was like 3 years with the 2-year option. I'm like, I can't do $500,000 in TIs and come in for that and then like not know when I've been somewhere else for 53 years. So that's where I'm like, as a council member, they're like, oh, they're offering flexible leases. I'm like, do you guys know anything? It's triple net. These are all things that are problems for businesses like ours to get in. So, but let me tell you, we're involved. We have econ development. There's a small amount of money that myself and another council member are working on to give people TI money when they go in, rent help. We want businesses to come in on these short-term with long-term opportunities on the promenade and downtown area and all over Santa Monica. There's a lot of vacant buildings that we want to see activated. So wherever we can modify zoning, conditional use permitting, or help with grant money, we are doing that to get businesses in. That's number one. Number two, if you have some public-private partnership opportunity that helps expedite those processes through AI or tech or app, or you're in the arts and music space or in the marketing space of letting people know, come to Santa Monica, we are in a moment right now. We're having a moment that's revved up. LA 28, FIFA World Cup. These things are coming. We want ways to attract people to Santa Monica. We don't want to be like where you come to go to the store that you could go to 10 other cities to go to. We want to be the place where you go to have experiences that draw people here. So if that's something that you do, please, you should reach out. And like I said, this person is fresh and new, economic development. They don't have, if you wait too long, then they got that thick skin where they're not responding to you. So I think this is a good time to jump in and at least pitch your idea and say, hey, I know you guys are trying to bring concerts back to the pier. You're offering a designated alcoholic beverage zone on your promenade. You're looking for AI tools to help your staff be more efficient. Here's where I can step in. We're all ears right now. Like people are eager to listen to public-private partnership opportunities.
And I think that's it for today. Sadly, because I hope you all enjoy it. Sounds like you did, and as much as I enjoy talking to you or speaking with you. Oh, I need to work on my grammar. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a joy, and we're stick around for a little bit. And thank you. Have a wonderful day. It was great.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
to
This
see you
is
all.
an awesome room to be in. Amongst family.